You're welcome back to the show. It's still our Breakfast TV show. Good morning, and I'm Vera here on ABS TV. My name is Chidima Oranwa, and the topic we'll be exploring this morning is encouraging early skills in children. That's what we'll be talking about today. And we have with us as guests in the studio Dr. Chidozie Nwafor. He's a development psychologist. Dr. Chidozie Nwafor, glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, hello, Jazz. Welcome to this morning show.
We also have with us in the studio this morning Maureen Uchenna Nwafor Necking. She is an education officer, a quality assurance ASOBEB, and also a mother. Glad to have you.
Good morning, everyone.
And also, I will not forget to introduce my colleague who is right here with me as a co-anchor, Ajolo Chuku Okabwe. Glad to be with you on the set this morning, Ajolo.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Indian Umbra, good morning. Well, for now, I'm a kid because I'm here to acquire certain skills.
Okay, who are you acquiring the skill from?
Of course, when we have the learned heads, the psychologists, and then the trained experts.
With all these white hairs on your hair, you're no longer a kid. All right, let's go straight into our discussion this morning. You're looking at encouraging early skills in children. Let's start with you, Dr. Chidozie Nwafor. Now, when we talk about encouraging these early skills in children, does it mean that we as parents should start, forcing or telling our children to do something because we want them to be maybe be skillful in any particular area, or are we looking at for some of the things that they do on their own? Like you see some children that when they are growing up, you see them always trying to fix wires and all that. You encourage them, or do we force our own ideas on them as parents?
Wow. Yeah, thank you for that wonderful question. Well, it's very important we understand the fundamental thing whenever we talk about early skills in children. Before you talk about them manipulating the environment, you have to know that there are certain things that are basic, that I'll call internal skills, that they will use to begin to manipulate the environment. And if they don't acquire those basic innate need or maturity or growth, every other thing will fall apart. And it's not all about forcing them to acquire those things. Those things are milestones, basic developmental milestones that the parents must cover. So when we say encouraging, in this context, it's first of all meant taking a close look, observation at your children as they are growing, to make sure that they are growing according to the required physical, cognitive, emotional, language skills that they're supposed to, have for them to be able to adapt very well in their environment. So it's a type of supporting the children, okay? Helping the children to make sure that they are in line of the required developmental milestones that they need for them to now adapt, learn, and progress in the environment, without which everything might fall apart. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chidozie. Let me go to the lady here, Maureen Uchenna, please. Well, as a child, I remember vividly there were certain chores, skills, arts we were meant to do in school. But these days, that is participatory. We do it. But these days, I speak as a parent's point of view. Most of the stuff that children are meant to do in school, they bring it home. And most of these children get those things done by their parents or maybe elder ones in their house. Isn't this a disconnect from what the doctor just said now, that these children should learn to use these things, or rather to do them on their own? Because I don't see anything wrong in if you're being told to mold a cup, maybe with paper mache and the rest of it all. Let the child mold it and let him feel. Tomorrow he will do it better. How are you guys trying to bring this into the educational, curriculum of most schools, so that these kids develop these skills early enough, say from the primary schools down to the tertiary?
Thank you for that particular question. My own view on this, you know, in the school system, we have all these things in our curriculum. They are there. And that's the reason why some teachers give them as assignments or project to the young or to the children or young ones to do. The problem is that they don't have enough time in the school. Some schools don't have enough time to do them in the school. Then they will not assign them to go home and do them at their own convenient time. So after teaching them in the school, they will not ask them, go home and do this. And you will see their parents when they got home, because they don't have time for their children, they will just assign it to professionals to do it and give to them so that they will go back to the school and submit to the school. Now, they abuse the objectives of the school for assigning those skills or those works to the children to do. They abuse it. They don't understand the objective of all these things. These are the skills children are supposed to learn. They're supposed to learn. In education, we say that we have what we call the gross skills and fine skills. Now, we are talking about fine skills the children should learn in the school. Then that child is supposed to learn how to use his own hands to do something. Maybe mold a cup, like you said, use clay soil to mold a cup, paper match to do this thing, or even use some local materials to construct or produce like hand fan. When I was in primary school, we did all these things. We learned them in the school. We come home, our parents who knew better than even the teachers, they will help you to do them at home. But the parents of these days, I don't know whether we say that they don't know it or they don't have time to help the children. So from what a doctor said here, I just encourage parents, even if you don't know it, look for somebody that can do that thing very well. Call the attention of that person. That person will help your child to do that particular thing assigned to that child. Don't do it for that person. As the child does that, that child is developing that skills. That child is developing creativity in that person. You can't underestimate that child, what she or he can do, until you give that person the opportunity to explore, to do that thing. You will see. So, parents should help.
All right. Okay, Dr. Chidozie, when you were giving your earlier submission, you made mention that these are the skills that will help them in life. Once they don't get acquainted with some of the skills, that it is going to be, kind of disrupt them at some point in life. Now, I want us to talk about some of the skills, because we know that they are life skills. They are things that they are supposed to know. At a certain age, a child is supposed to know that when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm supposed to dress well. I'm supposed to, wear a clean cloth and all that. But these days, you find out that if the parents are not there to do it for some of these children, they don't do it. And you hear some parents telling you, very soon he will learn. When is he or she supposed to learn? Now, let's look at some of these life skills that we are supposed to teach our children. And at what age should we start letting them know that at this particular age, you're supposed to be independent, you're supposed to do this for yourself. I won't be here always as a parent to do it for you.
Yeah, well, as the domains of life are vast, so also the domains of skills that every human being needs to survive. But before I continue with that, it's important to note that observing and assessing a child's skill is also a diagnostic assessment. Mm-hmm. Because as the child is growing up, if the child is not responding according to the skill required for his age, the parents may now suspect that there are some developmental challenges. Okay? Now, these skills start from conception. Okay, you find out immediately a child is born in hospital, the nurses and the doctors will make sure the child cries. Okay, what we call sensory motor skills or response. The child is supposed to notice that the environment has changed from the womb to the outside the womb. And in adjusting to that environment, the child must cry, should cry. Okay, what is happening to me? Where am I? And if the child refuses to cry, it's a pointer that something might be wrong. You see the nurses trying to touch the limb, the hand, pinch the baby so that the baby will respond. That is sensory motor response. To make sure that the brain is connected with the sense organ, with sense of touch and everything. Okay? So there are other skills, okay? Like we have social skills. Okay? The social skills is developed from the time the child is being fed. Okay? You notice that the mother will be gazing on the child as he's feeding the child. And the child is supposed to reciprocate such thing. You notice that if the child is not getting enough breast milk, okay, the child will react by crying. Or at times, if the woman shows a surprise or anger, you see the child may stop, telling you that the child is beginning to develop some skills that have to do with cognitive ability, what they call theory of mind. Okay, you see a child being able to understand that my mother is happy, my mother shouts. If you shout, the child will shake, or do you understand? So if the child is not reacting like that, it's telling you something that is observing this child, okay, that this child is not responding to the environment. And you know, you need to respond to the environment for you to survive. Okay, you need to make sure that the child is hearing very well. You need to make sure that the child is seeing very well, visual acuity. Okay, all these things is when all of them are sung together, it will not lead to social skills, because it's what you observe, what you hear is what you react to. If you never see a mom smile, you will not learn how to smile. If you never see anybody cry, you may cry, but at a stage you know that this is not how to cry. Okay, that is another part of things, social skill. Okay, she talked about gross scale and fine scales, motor movement. Okay, that is what we call baby's kick. If the child is not kicking his leg well, okay, there are certain tests the pediatrics will do to make sure why is this child not reacting. Because if the child is not responding, opening his hand well, how will you expect the child to develop a fine motor skill? The child cannot hold a pen when it reaches the time to hold a pen. Okay, so you notice it at times. You hold the child. That's what we call baby stick. This you hold the child to know whether the child will grab your hand. And at times, it is said that a child that is well developed, even at a newborn, if you grab your hand, you can lift the child up. Just telling you that the child is developing strong motor fine scale or gross scale. So if you do that and your child's hand is open like this, in future, would you expect that child to hold a pen? So that is where the assessment starts. You begin to notice language skill.
Language.
Okay? There's a way the child will be crying. The women will say, go and check whether he has a tight tongue.
Tongue, yes.
Because if he has a tight tongue and if he's not crying to show that language is going to develop in future, is a problem. And if the language is not developed, how does the child communicate?
So in other words, it starts from birth, immediately after giving birth to the child, okay?
It starts from there. Both emotion is needed to learn in class, social is needed to interact with others in class, physical maturity. Okay, if the child is not growing as supposed to grow, that's growth and maturity. Growing and the leg is mature, the child is supposed to crawl. Gross scale, he's not crawling, he's lying down and moving his belly. How will you take the child to school? So when you notice that all these important skills are not developing when the child is growing, you seek for help on time. Otherwise, if this A is not developed, it will hinder the ability of B to develop. I mean, you can't expect a child that cannot hold a pen to mold a pot. Okay? A child that cannot walk, or a child that is so afraid to go to school. The child will be having this attachment problem. So the parents start at home when the child is born, and you observe that he's developing. Okay? And from there, every other thing will be normal. But if language is not developed, social skill is not developed, emotional skill is not developed, nothing develop.
Even hunger skills too. So then we'll still get to that. Let me come to you, Maureen. While you were saying, I will still come to the doc and then we'll talk about one or two things on that. Now, as an educationist, somebody that sees this child or these children that have little or just little deformity as in growing up, be it in social skills and stuff like that, how then, when they now come to you, be it in the class, how do you take it up from them? Do every teacher in class have the necessary, what will I say, knowledge to handle this child? Because somehow they are more like a gifted child because they are lacking in certain area of, let's say, cognitive skills. So where do you guys come in to help children like that so that they don't be left away and then have issues growing up?
In a school system, you see, when we talk about these children, we are talking about young human beings that depend on adults to do some certain things. So when you just enroll them in schools, like the less privileged or those ones, now the teacher in charge of taking care of them, before somebody will be a teacher, that person must have gone through some processes of life. That person must have gone through some processes. That person is a learned person who has been groomed and trained to handle this type of children. So every teacher, I believe that every teacher has that skills, has the ability to inculcate in them or to help them or to support them. In primary school, we have what we call, in nursery and primary school, we have what we call the Montessori skills of teaching. This is teaching by practical teaching. A child that is growing, that has not developed, or you see that that child is not developing these skills as it's supposed to be, there are some things you will do to help the child to develop. For instance, when we talk about fine motor skills, like Doc said, in Montessori's system of teaching, we normally use something like peg. This peg that we use to hold clothes. You see, if you use peg, if you start pressing peg like this, you will see that the child is moving. The child will be playing, without knowing that something is going on in that person's memory. Peg is like this. You are now teaching that child how to hold pencil or pen using that peg. There is some kind of pressure in pressing that peg. That the same pressure that you will use in writing, in holding pen or pencil to write. So I'm just give an example that there are some skills, there are some methods and some things you will use to help them to learn the skills.
Okay. Quickly, let me come to the doc here. You understand? I've read articles where I remember when my wife was pregnant of our first child, there were some things I was really, excited, wanted to do for her. So there was something I came across and I said, the article was more like you can give birth to a Mozart if you teach the child things that is relating to Mozart. You know who Mozart is, one of the greatest, composer of old. So what the article was just trying to say in essence is that even before the child is born into the world, that while the child is still in the womb, you can communicate with that child, and then that child will come out with those information that you are passing to that child. Please, I found that because I didn't have an experienced hand or a mind that will relate with that. So now, are you telling me that if I want to give birth to the next Michael Jackson, I can, by playing tunes, the guy comes into this world and then he's already a superstar? What's your take on that?
Well, the answer is yes and also no.
Okay.
Well, human being is maintained by nature and nurture. Okay? Now, and this intelligence or talent is by nurture and by nature. That means the child have to inherit some of the potentials of the parents, okay? Like genetically. So in the prenatal development, the child may have everything, but there's what we call prenatal environment that will necessitate the genetic mechanism to move on, to manifest. Okay? Now, the woman's supposed to take care of his health. If there's vaccine, the woman's supposed to take, the pregnant woman, that is prenatal drugs, all these prenatal drugs supposed to take, that will help him or her maintain, do you understand, healthy baby, so that both the brain, the nervous system, especially in the first 3 months of pregnancy, okay, there are certain things the woman does, but one of the most important things in Africa these days is the maternal environment. If the environment is so stressful for the woman will be releasing some hormones, stress hormones, and those stress hormones will hinder the normal development and the manifestation of genetic information, whatever the woman would have collected. But compared to a woman that goes through his the period of gestational period of pregnancy in a normal, serene, and happy environment, giving the child what the child requires. So if the child have the genetic information, the thing will develop naturally, okay? And once the child is born, the nurture comes in. You begin to put the child towards what you want the child to be, okay? Even if you think the child is a dunce, once the child is watching Michael Jackson every day and he has all the genetic predisposition that makes him normal human being.
Doesn't that come to where I'm saying you forcing your child to be something, maybe this is not what he's wired or programmed to become?
Yeah, there are two things there. You know, okay. There's what we call genius and there's what we call learned behavior. Okay, when you see somebody that is a natural talent, okay, is different from somebody that is forced to learn that. Okay, now most times just like light and plant. Okay, wherever you put the light is where the plant grows. Okay, the child cannot imaginarily learn what he has not experienced, because learning is as a result of modeling, imitation, and repetition. So the child cannot model what he doesn't observe. Okay, so even if he doesn't have the talent, where the desirable is not available for the child, the available will become the desirable. Okay, although those other alternative talents may be there if he's exposed, but if he is never exposed to such alternative talents, he will do with the one he's exposed with.
Okay, we'll still come back to
the question will be whether it is right or wrong to restrict that child to what you want, because eventually the child is exposed in a later life, he may revolt.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, we'll still come back to late developers, and because you talked about genetics and all that, some parents, they will tell you that they developed late, and probably their children, when they give birth to them, they will still be late developers. We'll still come back to that and know how to handle it. But then let's go out to the street and hear people's opinion concerning what we are discussing right here in the studio this morning.
As a result of some of our parents, especially the people who didn't go to school, they don't know the importance of foundation of a child. If the foundation is faulty, the child cannot do anything. First of all, you have to teach your child or your children how to be obedient, how to be respectful. You know, once they miss that, at a point it will become a problem before you try to correct them. Perhaps you say teachers. Teachers are human beings. They cannot do more than they can. Okay, these days, during our period, if you mess up, they will flog you. But these days, if you flog any child, the parents will come and bring police for you. So these days, every teacher just relaxed, allowing the children to do whatever they feel like.
I feel as if a child should know how to like clean, take care of themselves, and how to respect others. But I feel as if the respecting part has to do with parents too, because like everybody deserves respect. But then as a child, you don't really know, because a child is usually playful in nature and all. So I feel as if as a parent, you need to tell your child, okay, oh, everybody, you should respect everybody, including your elders, whether those that deserve respect and those that don't deserve respect. And then I think taking care of yourself is just this thing. And in school also, live your life as a child, enjoy yourself. But then there's some, I think a child, at a young age, there are some things that some parents should teach their child that, okay, when an adult does this to you, tell us. Like, some things that deserve consent. If an adult touches you, okay, tell us. But there are some things that some parents don't tell their children at all. And then eventually, when their children experience these things, they don't mention it until when they are grown. They don't mention that, okay, when I was a child, I experienced this. So you teach your children that, okay, they don't touch you in some certain ways. And you don't talk to people in some certain ways. But there are some words that some children hear at home from their parents. And they don't think it's a normal word to just say around. Some parents should be like, okay, this word, you don't say it as a child.
The basic thing parents should teach their children at early stage. One, respect to the elders, how to greet. Then, if they see somebody on the road, they will greet. Then, another thing in their house, how to do the morning function, how to sweep, cook, wash their plates after eating, or when their parents finish eating, they should wash their plates.
Banyere nkuzi na-enye ụmụazị wee mụ kwetara n'ime onwe m na osi n'aka parents ọ n'aka nne na nna ka ọ na-esi because before nwatakịrị apụba n'ilo nye na nne na nna ya ebigo banyere otu esi agwa ndị mmadụ okwu ma otu esi eme omume ibe niile a bidoro n'aka nne na nna ọ bụ na nne na nna nye ụmụaka ba ọzụzụ dị mma before we apụba n'ụzọ we enweghị ya n'ụlọ so va ya ama ụdịva ya eji wee na-eme ma va pụọ n'ụzọ so n'ibe niile anwa ibe bido n'isi wee mebie from nne na nna ịbụ nne na nna nyere ụmụaka ba ọzụzụ ezigbo ọzụzụ nwatakịrị ahụ ama mpụta n'ilo kpalie okenye tọlịa ọma mpụta n'ilo misbehave because na ụfọdụ ya amụta ụmụaka na vaman take care of their children because na va ejiro n'ibe ama bụtị mụba nwa icheke na Nigeria kịta nwa ndị ndị nwa ji ego ada like ịmụ ọtụtụ ụmụaka na onye ọbụla ya like ka ọ mụta ịmụta nke ya azụnwu nye ezigbo training na ọ ya bụ echi ọba ulu ọ bụrụ ịmụ ụmụaka bụ isi na ịzụrụ azụ.
All right, you're welcome back to the show. We'll listen to what the people we interview have to say. I mean, almost all of them that aired their opinion said that it is the duty of parents to inculcate the skills that we've been talking about in their kids. Some of them said that it's now the duty of parents to tell their children that when you see an elder, you greet an elder. But these days, we see that some children will just walk past you. It's even you that will call them back. Have you greeted me? They'll be like, good morning. And like you are forcing them to greet you. So these are the skills that parents are supposed to inculcate in their children and all that. Now, before we went on the break, I was talking about late developers, and then I've heard about some children that that are autistic and all that. So at that level, or people, the parents that have this kind of children, what kind of help are they supposed to seek? Because I know that autistic children, they don't even know and what to do at any particular point. You are supposed to guide them, take them to the bedroom to eat themselves, you bathe them, you cook, you give them food. They don't even know when they are hungry and so many things. So at that point, when you notice that things are not really going well with this kid, maybe he might be autistic or she might be autistic, what kind of help are you going to seek as a parent? And how do you help out for those that are late developers too?
Okay. Generally, among the normal, what I mean by normal, people that don't have any developmental challenge. By the way, developmental challenge are those maturity or growing challenge that is noticed first when the child is about 6 months, or maybe 1 year. Okay, when the child, that is when you notice that the child has some hindrances or some behavioral challenges. Okay, or have not covered the milestones that is supposed to cover. There are many types of developmental challenges. Some of them are genetically inclined, like something like Down syndrome. Okay, some of them are not pure genetically, but it's related to neurological disposition, that just like brain, like autism. And when you come to them, they are a various class or level, from moderate to severe and whatever. But one underlying thing, denominator among all of them, is that it affects the child behavioral development, either in communication, like autism is purely communication. That's one of the things. The child lacks the ability to communicate back, that skill to communicate back and interact in the social environment, okay? There are other types of developmental challenges that children offer, but in all, some people who are normal, who don't have developmental challenges, still have some delay or late adaptation to begin to do things they're supposed to do, like writing, like language, okay? But once you notice, for instance, in a normal child, what makes you call the child a normal child is that when you notice some delay in skills, developmental skills, like communication, physical development, or whatever, you take the child to hospital, maybe a pediatrician, and the pediatrician assesses the child and cancel every other biological cause of the child delay in development of skills. When the doctor says there's nothing that will make the child not to speak or not to walk, it's just like the child is a late developer. Allow him with time. He can, like some children don't walk by 1 year.
Yes.
Some of them reach to 2 years. Some of them don't even crawl at all. One day you see the person standing and walking.
Well, I know the reason why I asked that question, because some people think that children at that particular level, maybe they are possessed by a particular demon. So that was why I asked the question, what you are supposed to do as a parent.
Developmental delay, and at times this developmental delay can be triggered by the environment. Okay. Like most times, people that groom their children in one room where the child don't have space to explore, to crawl, the child may see such child having delay in crawling. Okay, so whenever you observe a problem, a social skill, whatever skill problem, you observe the environment. First of all, count out the biological cause, that there is no biological reason why the child will be suffering this thing. Then you look inward again to the environment that the child is.
Okay. These classes of people, when we talk about introverts and extroverts, does this have anything to do with what we are discussing now? Maybe the environment where the person was brought up?
Yes, because all those things are triggered by the environment. They are called en route threat. Nobody is born an introvert. What makes you an introvert is the environment and the opportunity the environment gives you. Okay, if the environment is like these days, everybody wants the children to be inside the house. They don't want you to mix up with the people. So if you are not used to interacting with other children, when you go out, you have to first of all sit quiet and be looking, because there's an Igbo that says that so, and over time, if you become your pattern, then psychologists can now say that you are an introvert. But if you give the child the opportunity, that's why in African society, where we have extended family, when the child is born, when he's coming on, this auntie will come, go and greet, the child will continue to go. So you see, really, in a traditional African society, we rarely see somebody that can be categorized as an introvert. But in these semi-urban and urban areas, where flats have come in and go to school and come back, has come in, you see a lot of people, you see Nigerians raising a lot of introverts these days, because most of this smartphone too, a child of 2 years or 3 years can be engrossed with cocoa melon for the whole day.
Yes.
And you don't want to even go to school. So over time, it can then change communication skill pattern.
Let me come to the lady in blue. You understand? Even though blue is my favorite color. But then, at what stage do we begin to teach our kids this cognitive aspect of how to handle things like money, relate with people and everything like that? Because I can remember my cousin, he's 9 years old. You keep 1,000 naira here on this table. He will know this is 1,000 naira, but he doesn't even know the value of that money. So and I know it wasn't the same with me. I don't know if it's environmental. So at what stage do we begin to teach kids on the handling of money? Because at a point, Chidimaya was saying, no, a child will go and forget that which you said, that probably come back and then ask you, Mommy, what did you say again? So as a mother, you understand, at what stage do you begin to give certain responsibilities in sending them on chores and then cognitive, let's say, things with money, so that they begin to now get wise with the environment?
Okay. Can I say there is a specific age, depending on the type of skill that person you want to teach the child? Like when doctor was saying, he said that learning of this skill or developing the skill starts from the day a child is born. Yes. So you say that teaching them start from the day any child is born, depending on the type of skill you want to teach that particular child. Like when we come to communication skills, you want to teach a child how to greet. It's when that person can talk.
Maturity.
Yes, when that person can talk, you now say, this is how to greet, good morning, sir, good morning, ma'am. Maybe some people start talking, some children start talking at the age of 1 or below 1 or 2. Immediately, that person can talk, you start teaching.
All right. Okay.
Then, some people, when we talk about gross motor, fine motor, things, or you see a child that can hold something like this, somebody that can pick a cup, that's when you see something like lights attracts children. Maybe under like 6 months, you will just see the child. As far as he can crawl, you will see something and start rushing to go and get that thing. If that person get that thing, you take it back from that person. You know that that person can handle a thing. You will start teaching that person how to hold something from that stage.
What stage is good enough for a child to start knowing the value of currency?
Okay, value of currency when we talk about money.
Yeah.
I think that will be around 6 years of age.
All right. We really don't have time. We have to go. We want to say very thank you to both of you for joining us. Dr. Chidozie Nwafor, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
And also Maureen Uchenna Nwafor Necking. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, that's it on this particular topic, encouraging early skills in children. Of course, you see that we all have a role to play, especially as parents, to see that we encourage the skills in our children so that they will not suffer tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. We are taking a short break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.